Welcome to SVG-TV's news for Wednesday, June 29, 2022. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. A flash flood watch, a high surf advisory, and small craft warning remain in effect for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In its 6 p.m. bulletin, the SVG Met Services says the tail end of a potential tropical cyclone 2 is affecting the islands. Residents and motorists in areas prone to flash flooding and landslides or near rivers and streams are asked to exercise caution. On radio this morning, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gansov says that SVG was spared the worst from the overnight weather system. He said although there were reports of damage in some communities, thankfully there was no loss of life.
Morning is the weather system overnight. As you probably are aware, we have been spared the worst. We have had no reports of any loss of life, none as to any injuries. We have had some rooftops damaged because of gusty winds. Overnight, the winds, we had maximum winds gusting up to 40 miles per hour. The rainfall on St. Vincent itself was 1 inch, and in the Grenadines, as predicted, it was in the region of 3 inches. In St. Vincent, it had been predicted that we might have gotten up to 2 inches, but thankfully, there was only 1 inch.
Prime Minister Gansov said although there were power outages in some areas last night, he was informed that teams from VINLEC tried their best to restore electricity as quickly as possible, but they were faced with a few challenges.
What I've given you there is what I got from NEMO, from Michelle Forbes, and also from the meteorological office to the head of it, Billy Jeffers. I spoke with Vaughan Lewis, Dr. Vaughan Lewis, who is the acting CEO of VINLEC. There were lots of areas last night, particularly in the south. You see, from Carpan area, come all the way down towards the Ratamil area. In pockets, we had electricity which was out, but we had 4 teams out last night doing the work. In some areas, the gusty winds made it difficult for the VINLEC teams to work. There was outages down on the leeward in the Pembroke area, but those have been resolved, and so I've been advised that electricity is back up since early this morning down in that area.
This country's COVID-19 death toll now stands at 112, the latest victim being a fully vaccinated woman with underlying medical conditions. According to the Ministry of Health, the 42-year-old female tested positive for COVID-19 on Sunday, June 26th, and was admitted to the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital's isolation ward. The fully vaccinated woman died on Monday, June 27th of COVID-19 pneumonia. Meanwhile, active COVID-19 cases are down to 80 with 10 hospitalizations and 5 recoveries. To date, 71,560 COVID-19 vaccines have been administered on island. Economist and Pro-Vice-Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Professor Justin Robinson, says it is critical that government implements financial policies which will ease the burdens on the emerging middle class and lower class. Professor Robinson, who participated in a public lecture last evening at the French's House entitled Inflation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, said inflation is hindering the ability of the lower class to meet their basic needs. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, prices of a number of commodities have increased in recent months, including fuel, imported food items, and flour, which rose by 25 cents earlier this week.
And that's why I have focused so heavily on the relief for the most vulnerable, because they have limited capacity to substitute. Such a high percentage of their income is going towards the essentials, keeping the light, the water on, some food, getting to and from work. So those persons actually do need relief, and it's quite important that governments intervene in a real and meaningful way, and that goes back to historical times, really, where whoever is in government knows that there are groups that are very vulnerable to, like back then it was increases in the price of bread and wheat, and you always make sure those things are affordable. And I don't think those have changed. What people need now is some access to basic food and that they can keep their light and water on.
While many advocate for assistance to be given to the most vulnerable persons in society, Professor Robertson said a government also needs to consider the emerging middle class when developing policies.
While we have focused a lot on assisting the more vulnerable, I also often in these discussions, particularly in our Caribbean society, to also put in a plug for the emerging middle class. They are vulnerable in a different way than sometimes the lower income, in that sometimes low income people can respond to an income shock in a slightly different way from middle class person, in the sense that they might not have a mortgage, they might not have a car loan and so on. So the vulnerability of the middle class often comes that they are locked into a set of loans, and a 10% reduction in their purchasing power over a period of time can certainly push those persons into an uncomfortable zone. And sometimes that group tends to get ignored in crafting policies which are focused. So I would certainly, so for example, the IMF just put out a report, and they were very critical of the fact that in Barbados that we would have reduced the value-added tax on gasoline, and government capped its tax. Now their view is that that's not good policy, because both rich people benefit from that. In terms of their own productivity, they may need to drive a car to manage the career they're doing. I mean, can you do a certain job or type of career effectively if you have to rely on public transport? So
Minister of Urban Development with responsibility for seaports, Senator Julian Francis, has announced that the formal opening of the Kingston Port Modernization Project will take place this Friday, July 1st. The World Bank funded project is being done at a cost of $185 million and being constructed by Canadian company Econ Construction Group. Senator Francis says when the construction begins, the Upper Kingston area will be closed off and alternative traffic arrangements put in place.
This Friday, that's July 1st, and it's going to be held on the foreshore behind the input warehouse on that. And shortly after that, immediately after Carnival, that area is going to be completely closed off. Contractor, Econ, is taking possession of the property and the work site. Basically effective first, but implement the traffic plan and management of the area. So all that area will be sealed off. There is a traffic plan presented by the contractor, reviewed by the police, traffic department. You're not going to be able to use the foreshore road. Okay, so there will be alternative traffic arrangements, and these will be put in place between the 1st and 7th, so immediately 7th, 2 days after Carnival.
Senator Francis says the project consists of 3 components, starting with the construction of the cargo port. As part of the project, 6 hectares of land will be reclaimed from the sea, and the existing sewer line will be upgraded and rerouted.
All of the beach down, you're taking the line down there. That's why we have to remove them now.
Yes.
Now this project carries 3 phases. There's the inter, which is basically Grenadines Ferry, and intra-regional, which is the trading boats that go between the islands. 2 other ports are going to be built in that area. You don't want to repeat this exercise 2 years down the road when you're ready to go into the 2nd phase. So the cleanup exercise of Bottom Town and Rose Place, everybody, we stop calling it Bottom Town now, has to be done once and for all.
Yeah.
If not, by the time you're ready for the 2nd phase, there'll be 20 more that you have to go and try and remove. Yeah, so it's a one-shot deal.
And Minister, I note.
Friday's launching ceremony will be held in the vicinity of a road adjacent to the Agricultural Input Warehouse, commencing at 9 a.m. 20 boat owners and fisher folks will now be relocated to Lomans Bay on the Leeward Coast to continue their livelihood. The government has made provision to clear spaces around the Lomans Bay area so that fisherfolk can set up their shed to store personal items for their boats. This decision came days after the fisherfolk expressed frustration that they were unable to find a new location to place their boats after being asked to move away from the Rose Place area to accommodate the port modernization project. President of the National Fisherfolk Organization, Winspert Harry, told SVG-TV News yesterday that the fisherfolk are grateful that an area has been allocated to them so that they can continue to ply their trade.
What we are seeing here in Lomans Bay, I think it should have been happening since 2 years ago, since there was construction, the homes for the persons, because since that day we couldn't go to Edinburgh. There was never really no alternative for the fishers. So this is why we was reaching out to the public and see how we could get the assistance in terms what will be the best possible location. And now we have about 20 boat owners suggesting that they would like to come to Lomans Bay. And now we're seeing that the assistance has been given from the authority to clear the spot. So fisher folks from Rose Place to come to Lomans Bay to start the new operation. As the president, I really welcome it.
Harry said it will be a big transition for persons in Lomans Bay now having to share the beach area with them. He, however, noted that he does not foresee any conflict between the Rose Place fisherfolk and Lomans Bay fisherfolk, as their sheds will be different.
Well, and there will be no conflict, but as I say that we the fisherfolks of Rose Place was never against relocation, was never against the project. As a fisherman from Rose Place and the president of the National Fisherfolks Organization, I was never against it. But all we was asking about is that just give us something that we could continue operating as how we used to operate in Rose Place. And finally, I speak to several of the boat owners and several of the fisher folks. I speak to members of Goodwill. I speak to members of the National Fisher Folks, because we had a meeting in terms of how we go forward in terms of looking at development of the fishing industry, because you know the fishing industry is just fisher folks from Rose Place coming to Lomans Bay. The fishing industry is kind of broad than that, because we have if you're looking at the fleet expansion program where we encouraging people to
The National Fisherfolk Organization president said with their move to Lomans Bay, he is hoping that the government would also provide the necessary resources for the fisherfolk to develop their trade, which in turn will help to develop the local fishing industry.
That place, what we need in Lomans Bay now, we need proper security, we need lights, we need water, we need toilet and everything. So we want Lomans Bay be another Rose Place. So if we're moving from there, we need where we know there's predator larceny with animals, but we have predator larceny with our boats, where fisher folks lose the engine, they lose the boat, they lose everything. So what we want now is, as a fisherman, is security, and tighten security, and we need lights, and we need water. And I go like the authorities, if you're moving us, please give us these assistance that we could transfer Lomans Bay from Rose Place as a new fishing destination, as a new fishing community. And I think it will be a beneficial for the development of the fishing industry.
While the fisherfolk and boat owners of Rose Place are grateful that the government of SVG has put things in place so that they can continue with their livelihood, they are, however, concerned about security at the Lomans Bay Beach.
As a fisherman, I see something going on for the fisherman here, but and the other thing I would like to see happen is that the fishermen get a little water to courtesy and some light.
Down here is where I live in. I live in Body Gutter, and down here is where I usually come before I was in the fishing business. I used to come down here and take part in the scene with the man and them pulling seine, backing and them kind of things. So I'm not really that, it's not really that bad for me.
Well, I was about a fisherman at Lomans Beach for a lot of years. Fishing in 51 years. My colleague, fishing in this place, I see no problem with the fishers coming to Lomans Beach. And I'm glad they get
something to put in place, whether it's a little ice machine, whether it's a little container, when we come with our fish and it's lit, that we could store it, or whosoever is going to buy it to take it to a bigger utility place for us.
Another thing now, Goodwill Fisherman Corp. We need to get our fuel and base right here too. And along with that, we need security. Good lighting system, need to get our boat protected. Because when a man go and buy $18,000 and buy engine, like my friend here, Kuchen, he buy his engine, people come and steal the engine. It is not nice. It will be hard that you don't have the engine and they still have to pay the loan.
Meanwhile, the number of Rose Place fishers who have accepted the compensation package being offered by the government has increased to 28, with 7 persons remaining. The negotiation between the fishers and government has encountered challenges, with some fishermen saying that the compensation package being offered is not adequate. Project manager of the Port Modernization Project, Linsky Douglas, gave a progress update while speaking on WFM Issues at Hand program last Sunday.
We have also a list of 35 fishing boat operators, right? Not fishermen, but fishing boat operators. These are the guys who take the risk of purchasing a boat, purchasing an engine, purchasing fuel to ensure that they can go out with their pirogue to fish, by thereby employing a captain, a couple of sailors, a boat boy. We are currently compensating those individuals, and as of Friday, we only had 7 of the 35 remaining to be dealt with. These boat owners are separate also from those persons who have abandoned vessels on the beach and persons who have unregistered motor boat operations that are either used for pleasure and or can also be fishing, right? And then there's some vessels there that never move.
With the Youth in Agriculture program scheduled to begin soon, Prime Minister Dr. Afghan Saab said that he is now considering increasing the stipend that would be granted to participants from EC $150 to EC $200. The Prime Minister, who was speaking on NBC Radio's face-to-face program this morning, said that although most persons would be okay with the 150 EC stipend, he prefers to be generous, as there are a number of incidents that can arise for persons while training.
They go for the training at different centers at two days a week. They'll get $150. I suggest to them that they give consideration. I spoke to Randy Brewster. See if they can raise that from the pot of money which we have now. See if that can go up to $200 now. Because, if you pay your transport and then you have to buy lunch, even though it's 2 days a week, they're going to do it for August and September. So you may say, with the 8 days, but it's just under, for 4 of the days, it's 150. Persons may find that that's okay, but and these things I usually like to be generous because I'm unlikely to buy some notepads. Even though they may get materials, but they may have some incidental otherwise, especially the women now, the young women. You have to be a practical man. You can't just do it by how the book say. And when you have an abundant heart, the mouth speaketh accordingly.
The Prime Minister said although the Youth in Agriculture program will be open to all, they are expecting a greater number of participants from certain constituencies.
in training from certain constituencies of what you may call the green area. Constituencies, the training from outside of the urban area, but including some are from the urban area, but mainly from constituencies from South Central Windward, come down to West St. George, and then in Central Leeward. These, and also some from Kingston, and Central Leeward would also cover South Leeward, the registration. Those young persons getting some training in agriculture, but you could see why this particular program, you'll have more persons from Central Leeward, South Leeward, and from West St. George up to South Central Windward, because in Kingston, particularly in Central Kingston, you'll have some people above shafts in the Green Hill area and so on who do farming now. Some young people who may be interested. They'd go for the training at different centers at two days a week.
In other news now, placement of students to secondary schools will be finalized by this Friday, July 1st. This is according to Minister of Education Curtis King, who on the API's Morning SVG program said the Ministry of Education is hoping to have the list to all schools by then. King said each year there is a challenge with parents wanting their children to attend certain secondary schools. However, the government has worked hard to ensure that there is equitable distribution of resources at all schools.
Challenge every year is the fact that parents, they always, for some reason, want the students to go to certain schools. Yes, we know that certain schools have a culture of success, if you like. But we have worked hard to ensure that we have an equitable distribution of resources to the respective schools so that you should not feel disadvantaged attending one school or the other. Because there are some given. The culture, and that's why I call it the culture of success, say enjoyed by those so-called top schools, not achieve overnight.
Though pleased with the results for this year's CPEA, the Education Minister said it is still important that parents, teachers, and education officials come together to lift the performance of the students.
But I must say, even though I'm pleased, I recognize there's a lot of room for improvement, and we have to commit ourselves to working even harder and smarter in the upcoming period. Because if you look at the performances of some of our students, even where they met the required standards, it is clear that a greater effort could have been placed in ensuring that these students got to a higher level. But of course, greater effort is a combination of ministry officials, other stakeholders like the parents, the school management and teachers, as well as the students themselves. So we have to combine our efforts to ensure that we lift our performances, because we can't just be satisfied with passing or meeting the minimum standards. We have to continue to lift the performances of all the schools.
Minister King is currently attending the Caribbean Ministerial Meeting on School Safety in St. Martin. The SVG delegation consists of Senior Education Officer Dr. Itilia Ferdinand and Hulda Peters of the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO. The finals of the Junior Calypso and Junior Soca Monarch was held yesterday, with 3 students walking away with winning titles. Despite heavy showers, 25 performers graced the stage at Carnival City Victoria Park. In the Calypso Primary School category, Divine Walters of the Sandy Bay Government School emerged as the winner with a song entitled Red Zone, while Denise Davis of the Calder Government School and Nyla Nero of Greg's Government School took second and third place respectively.
On we the little children, life as we know it just came to an abrupt end. War zone and more zone, red zone, please run now to home, red zone of the Almighty. So tell me why they are destroying them with rape, violence, drugs and alcohol. Our children are being preyed upon by the one who should be protecting them. Russian fire is on the attack and it heading straight for Bulgaria. Russian fire ring around the clock and they burning everything flat. Russian fire rockets and missiles. Russian fire all in the oil. Shooting, bombing, I say Russian fire. Fire blazing, I say Russian.
In the Calypso Secondary School category, Christina Christopher, student of the St. Vincent Christian Christopher, a student of the St. Vincent Grammar School, took the crown with a song called Cherish Life. Second and third place went to Omani Cupid of the Emmanuel Mesopotamia and Shanae Stevens of the St. Vincent Girls High School.
Whatever your philosophical view of life, I submit this humble advice. Cherish life, this precious gift shall own to we. Cherish life, this marvelous mystery. No shadow, no shadow. Lord, I shot all around. There is no shadow around. Belize, no shadow. Guatemala, no shadow. Lord, I shot all around. Hey, there is no shadow in town. Bidi, papa da da papa da pa.
Who really make them time to solve this hideous crime? Who really make it time? Why justice looking so blind? It is time for us to wake up as a concerned youth and say enough is enough.
First place in the junior Soca monarch category went to Dino Nero of the Sandy Bay Secondary School with Swingy. There was a tie for second position with Dekaj Tibbles of the Central Leewood Secondary School, who sang Menu, and the duo from J.P. Eustace Memorial Secondary School, Nikolai Matthews and Jelani Sandy, who performed Together Now.
What kind of food you like, y'all? What kind of food you like? What kind of food you like, y'all? What kind of food you like? Is it noodles? Is it jackfish? Is it sausage? Is it dumpling? What kind of food you like, y'all? What kind of food you like? What kind of food you like, y'all? What kind of food you like? Yes, yes.
One of the finalists in this year's Power Soca Monarch to be held this Saturday, July 2nd at Carnival City Victoria Park, Keith Grabber Finesse Charles is making it clear that he is fully prepared to win the much anticipated competition. In an interview with SVG-TV News on his birthday yesterday, Charles, who hails from Barley, said that this year is the third time he will be participating in the Soca Monarch finals, but this year he is more confident than ever that he will take the crown. Part of Charles's preparation for the upcoming competition is exercise, less drinking of alcohol, and meditation.
Well, I've been exercising, doing less drinking, doing a lot of sleeping, a lot of thinking, a lot of meditating about what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna place myself, how I'm gonna move around on the stage, how I want my dances to be, and a whole lot of vibes. My expectation is right now is for the whole place to get wild. So anytime I think about Soca Monarch, anything from Soca Monarch is the place getting wild and I holding the crown.
Charles says his song Place Turnover was inspired by the eruption of La Soufrière volcano in April of last year and other problems which affected the people of SVG over the past 2 years, including the pandemic.
The song I'll be going in with is Place Turnover, and the message behind the song, because the song was basically an idea from the whole pandemic and the whole volcano eruption. People was running and screaming, and then, it was a bad vibe for people because people had to move out their villages and go in different houses and, relocate now. So it was like the wall, like to us here in St. so like, boy, the wall was falling upon us now, you understand? And it was thanks to God that we, go through that storm and that horror, and then we out here and we survived. So it was like, let me just put a song to remind people what happened, and let me just rejoice and celebrate, that we're here today. So I came up with the Place Turnover, stating from our guys, stating, boy, the place turning over right now, boy, suffer blowing. You understand? You hear the place. So I stated from there, and then I put it together and I said, boy, when people drink rum too, it just really turn over, the way we act like themselves, and it's like a new page. So everything coming together, and that was it.
Charles used the opportunity to thank his friends and fans for their continuous support and also his critics, noting that he doesn't pay them much attention. Charles said that after the Soca Monarch competition and Vincimas, he will be going on tour abroad and is encouraging the youth of SVG to continue to push ahead to achieve their goals.
After Carnival, I'll be on a small little tour, representing for the country. The first tour I have, that will be in Grenada. I am Mass. That's a Lavaman event, and we have some more upcoming events that we have to confirm on, which is like Barbados and Canada and England. Just traveling, pushing out the music and pushing out the culture. Encouragement to the youths and the fans out there: make sure your self-esteem always high. Never met nobody trying to, peer pressure you and put you in a position that you don't want to be. And always be yourself and be who you want to be, because something great always out there for you in the future.
And the Marketing and Development Officer of the Carnival Development Corporation, Esworth Roberts, will be representing St. Vincent and the Grenadines at a cultural symposium organized by the Caribbean Festival of Santiago, Cuba, which would be held on Tuesday, July 5th and Wednesday, July 6th, 2022. This year would be the 41st edition of the festival. Participants from 15 Caribbean countries would attend, and the topic for discussion would be Carnival of Diversity, Organization, Management, and Creativity, Value of Carnivals and Festivals in the Caribbean and Europe. According to a news release from the CDC, the sessions would include a presentation of cultural projects and exchange with the governor of Santiago, Cuba, a visit to the Corb Sanctuary, and attendance at the concert put on by Corb Steel Band.